Well, hello again. Nice to see you back. I hope you're back. Anyway, here we go. We're another week on, and it's chapter 2 of Where Did Your Heart Go? And chapter 2 starts with the diary entries from Stephanie's diary of 1988, which Charlotte is now reading. Friday the 1st of January 1988. As it's the first day of the year, I'm going to make some New Year's resolutions. Sarah and I went to June's party for last night, and I danced so much that my feet are still aching now. One of the guys had kissed me on the cheek at midnight, but I didn't really fancy him, so it didn't go any further than that. I lay back against the pillows on my bed and listened to my favourite George Michael album as I chewed my pen. I needed to pass my exams, so that was my first resolution, as I wanted to study media and become a DJ on the radio. That was my dream ambition. Pausing, I listened to George Michael singing about sex. I was going to be 17 in a couple of months, and I wondered if I would ever be lucky enough to find a boyfriend, someone I could love. Jumping off my bed, I crossed to my mirror and stared critically at my reflection. I had auburn hair that was curly most of the time and sometimes difficult to control. My pale skin was scattered by freckles that had faded during the colder weather, but they would be back in view once the sunshine returned. I ran my hands over my slim curves, wishing that my breasts were larger, as that always seemed to be what boys looked at first. My new velvet jeans hugged my shapely legs that I knew were my best feature. Dad was always saying they stretched right up to my armpits, so although it wasn't really a resolution, I hoped that this year would bring love into my life. I turned to look at my ever-expanding bookshelves and decided that I would also read more books. I saw the newest one on the shelf and pulled it off, as there was no better time than the present to start. I opened the first page of Carrie by Stephen King. Saturday the 2nd of January 1988. Sarah phoned and asked if I wanted to go swimming, as she needed to get fit. I agreed it would also be good to get together for a gossip before school started again. As we entered the pool area, I stopped in my tracks, for sitting on the lifeguard chair at the deep end was the most gorgeous guy I had ever laid eyes on. I caught Sarah's arm and whispered, "Look at the lifeguard, he's gorgeous." "Well, yeah, he's okay, I suppose. Not really my type," Sarah replied, as we walked halfway up the poolside and I dived in. Surfacing, I swam to the side and waited for Sarah to take the more leisurely route of slipping into the water. We started to swim a couple of lengths together, stopping at each end to gossip and catch our breath. All the time I was surreptitiously checking him out as he monitored the pool. "I'm going to dive," I said to Sarah, before I swam across the pool and got out to saunter towards the diving board. Inside I felt the nerves kick in as butterflies started to beat against my ribs. Standing on the end of the board, I could almost feel his eyes watching me. I jumped and executed the best dive of my life. Swinging over to Sarah, I grabbed the side. "He was definitely watching you." "Well, of course he was. It's his job to do that." "No, I mean really watching," she said. "Perhaps he likes you." "Doubt it. He looks about 19 or 20. Guys that age rarely ever like 16-year-olds, I moaned. We pushed away from the side and swam a couple more lengths together. In my mind I could see him in his shorts and t-shirt. He was quite tall, I guessed about 6 foot, and was slim, but I could imagine the muscles hidden from view. He had blonde hair cut short and blue eyes which reflected the colour of the pool. I watched as he jumped down off his chair and started to walk a lap around the edge, carefully watching all the swimmers and ensuring they were safe in the water. Getting out after an hour, we started to get dried and dressed, chatting together over the top of the cubicle walls. Parting at the end of her road, I finished the journey alone, as my mind wandered back to the mysterious lifeguard. I made up my mind that I had to see him again, and perhaps be brave enough to talk to him. Sunday the 3rd of January. I spent the day tidying my room and getting my bag ready for the start of school. I put my Wham album on the stereo and danced around the room whilst I gathered everything together. As I listened to the melodic voice of George, he sang about staying home instead of going out dancing. I stared across at all the posters of him I had plastered over my walls, looking young and gorgeous in his white shorts and Choose Life t-shirt. Then some slightly newer photos of him in a leather jacket, stubble on his chin. I also thought about the guy at the swimming pool, still a mystery with no name. He didn't look anything like George, but as I pictured him I felt my heart start to beat faster in my chest. Was this the beginnings of a crush? Monday the 4th of January. As I hurried to meet Sarah at the corner of the street, I could see her waiting with our other friends, June and Amanda. "Hi girls," I said as I fell into step with them. "Hi Steph, are you ready for study and more study?" June asked. "Not really, but I guess we need to," I replied, putting my arm through Sarah's. "So Sarah says you have a crush on the lifeguard at the pool," Amanda said, turning to look at me. I blushed and reached out to give her a playful punch. "Maybe." "Well, you know Gareth likes you," June said. She had named the guy who had kissed me on the cheek at midnight. "He's not really my type," I replied. I could see my type. It was the guy at the pool. Walking home in the afternoon, I could hear the conversation surrounding me, but I kept drifting off into my fantasy world. I decided that I will go swimming tomorrow night on my own, hoping that if I am alone and he is there, then he might speak to me. Tuesday the 5th of January. Hurrying home from school, I hugged my secret plan close to my heart. I noticed Sarah giving me a strange look as we said goodbye at the end of her street as usual. "Is everything okay?" she asked. "Yes, I'll tell you in the morning," I replied, as I walked until I was out of sight. Then I ran the short distance home so I had enough time to get ready. I told Mum and Dad that I was going to the pool with Sarah, as I didn't want to explain why I was going on my own. In my bag I had packed my favourite bikini instead of my swimsuit, hoping that this would make an impression on him. I walked along in the dusk as the street lights lit the way through Ross-on-Wye to the pool. Crossing the car park, I started to feel nervous and I nearly turned around and went home. But it felt as if something was calling me inside, tugging at me to take the chance. Once inside the familiar surroundings, I got changed and then walked onto poolside. I saw him at the far end of the pool, walking around, so I quickly slipped into the water. The nerves were making my heart pound as I started to swim my first couple of lengths. After 10 lengths, I stopped at the deep end and took stock of the situation. I saw him striding back up to my end of the pool, and I could already feel the butterflies starting to flutter. I watched transfixed as before I could quite believe it, he was kneeling down right next to where I was holding on to the side. "Hi," he said. "Didn't I see you here on Saturday?" Yeah," I managed to get out of my stunned mouth. I could feel my skin getting hotter as the redness spread over my face like an embarrassing rash. I wanted to duck under the cool water and hide it from him. "So, I was wondering if you'd like to join the life-saving course I am teaching on Thursday night," he asked. "I noticed you were a really strong swimmer the other day." "Yes, that sounds good. How do I enrol?" "Oh, just pop to reception on your way out and tell Elaine that James sent you." "Thanks, James," I replied, trying out his name on my lips. "I'm Stephanie, but most of my friends call me Steph." "Great, Steph. I look forward to seeing you on Thursday night." For a second he held my gaze, and then I watched as he looked up and noticed some young lads fooling around on the other side of the pool. Then he was off, leaving me struggling for air as I slipped beneath the surface to cool my face. As I left the pool, I spoke to Elaine and she took my details and told me that the course was free for students. I was about to leave when I turned and asked, "What is James's surname?" "Cook," she replied, as she watched me blush and then head for the door. Wednesday the 6th of January. Sarah and I had study period at the end of the day, so we decided to sneak out of school early, saying that we were going to the library in town. Instead, we headed for our favourite cafe and bought some large hot chocolates topped with cream and chocolate sprinkles. Sitting at the table nearest the window, Sarah leaned forward. "You look different today. Spill the beans." "Okay," I said, my grin nearly breaking my face. "I spoke to him and I know his name." "You mean the lifeguard at the pool? How did you manage that?" Sarah asked, as she almost dropped the spoon she'd been using to scoop off the cream into her mouth. "I went to the pool on my own last night, and he stopped to speak to me and asked if I wanted to enrol in the life-saving class that starts on Thursday." "And what else?" "Well, he said he noticed what a strong swimmer I was on Saturday, and that he thought I might enjoy it." I took a sip of my drink as I relived the exact words of our conversation. I already knew them by heart, as I had been doing the same thing all day. "So what's his name?" "He's called James Cook." I loved the way his name sounded on my lips. "I'll ask my brother if he knows him, as if we think he might be 19 or 20, he might have been in the same year as Tom," she said. "Oh yes, do that," I replied. "Try and find out anything you can." Thursday the 7th of January. I was waiting for Sarah at the corner. June and Amanda had already gone ahead, which was good, as I didn't want to share any of this with them. Watching my best friend approach, I thought of how long we had known each other. We had been friends since we were 4 years old, and I knew that she would always be there for me. She had short brown hair that framed her face. She was taller than me, and I envied her fuller figure, but she was always saying that she wished she could swap, as she hated the attention it drew from guys in our year. So I asked, the minute Sarah was by my side. "Okay, hang on a minute," she replied, as she put her arm through mine and we walked along the path together. He's a year older than my brother, so that makes him 20, or possibly even 21. Oh, so I really don't stand a chance, and he was just being nice on Tuesday. Tom also said that his last girlfriend was a year younger, but he thinks they split up before they finished school. Oh, I said again, letting the information sink in. We had almost caught up with June and Amanda, so I quickly said, "Don't tell the others about this yet." "Okay, it'll be our little secret," she replied, as we joined them and walked the rest of the way to school. The day seemed to drag by so slowly as I watched the clock and waited to escape. I persuaded Mum to let me buy a new swimming suit. It was a lovely shade of purple and highlighted my sleek body and long legs. I wore my purple velvet jeans, black jumper and pixie boots, and was pleased with the effect as I took one final look in the mirror. Mum gave me a long look as I pulled my coat on. "You're rather dressed up for the pool," she said. "Well, I haven't been anywhere interesting to wear them yet," I replied, hoping she wouldn't notice my flushed face. "Are you sure you don't want Dad to drive you there and pick you up afterwards?" "No, Mum, I'll be okay, and it's not too far to walk." Charlotte paused as she heard me call from downstairs that dinner was ready. Putting the diary aside on the bed, she walked downstairs. "Did you really buy a swimsuit just to impress the lifeguard?" Charlie asked, as she sat down for tea. I nodded and smiled as I remembered it vividly. "That's so cool. I can't wait to read some more and see if it works," she giggled. Her sombre mood started to disperse despite the continuous beeps through tea, as various different friends texted her or messaged her on Facebook regarding the breakup. Craig had even tweeted that he was seeing a girl in the year below them. So that's the end of chapter 2. It's one of my favourite chapters, I think, and I hope that you might be starting to get a picture in your head of what the characters look like, and maybe if you're old enough you've gone back to the fashions of 1988 and you can remember your time there. But even if you're not old enough, maybe you've just remembered your first boyfriend. Anyway, I shall look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care, bye for now.